I don't want to talk about the last regime. I don't want to commit cruelty to species that are on the verge of extinction. I want to talk, Madam Speaker, about elements inside this particular bill, the Supplementary Estimates Bill, and I want to start with energy. Because allocated, as was pointed out to me during the Select Committee process, the scrutiny process, a word and an experience that I wasn't quite familiar with. Certain things happened during the unwanted sabbatical. However, coming back to the topic, I want to talk about the mortal threat that we face in terms of having a robust, adequate source of energy. And the fact that our energy resilience is threatened by a host of wild, untested, expansionary falsehoods in terms of what was served up about how New Zealand should respond to climate change. We cannot respond to climate change in an energy context, whether it's more sun, more wind, other interventions, unless investors, unless firms, unless farmers, unless manufacturers have the confidence that the lights will stay on and we'll have enough fuel in the country to continue to grow the economy. I am funding, Madam Speaker. We've heard enough from Yabba Dabba Doo over there. This is serious economics. We are talking about the threat to the resilience of our nation in respect of fuel. Ever since that crazy, dangerous decision was made to imperil the robustness of our military, worsen the resilience of our firms through the closure of the only refinery that we had in New Zealand, it falls to us now to tidy it up. An investment to ensure that our fuel supplies continue to remain at a level where business has confidence in our direction. If we do not have, Madam Speaker, an energy system that can guarantee to keep the lights on, we will not attract new investment. And this notion that somehow just wind, just solar is going to keep the economy turning over, riddle me this. Why is it that the 1,500 megawatt investments that are either going through the system or have already been allocated, why are they not already up and running? The last regime did nothing to improve the competitiveness of the energy sector, which is why in the coalition agreement, now funded as a consequence of this budget, we're going to drive better competitiveness. Not only are we going to drive better compliance, and I don't want to talk about the 100,000 New Zealanders whose lives have been blighted by the falling over of one single pylon. Let me come back. There is a clear message in this particular budget. Either we're going to use our own Indigenous resources or we're going to worsen our vulnerability and throw ourselves at the feet of geopolitical instability. There is a very bleak story to be told. Whilst previously no one wanted to openly admit that we should use our own gas resources, this politician, this side of the House, is clearly going to trumpet, if you want to invest in gas and in oil in New Zealand, the door is open. The opportunities are here. We are not going to quietly watch the mountains of Indonesian coal grow, whilst the only response we hear is more wind, more solar. We need hard-headed responses, and as a part of my delivery, we're going to do that in the context of energy. Let me talk a wee bit about fisheries, an area that has been continually demonised, continually delegitimised. They have now, the industry and our side of the House, not only advocacy but a politician who's not going to acquiesce with the ongoing trivialisation of this important industry. And this notion that suddenly we're going to outlaw bottom trawling, suddenly we're going to outlaw the majority of the techniques used by our current fishing industry to suit a tiny minority of activists, it's not happening. We need to boost the income, boost the revenue from expanding our capacity, derive more livelihood income, more export income from that industry. Now let me go on to what was meant to be, Madam Speaker, the key institution to moderate, incentivise changes to behaviour and climate change, the ETS. What happened under the last regime? Well, hopefully we'll see the back end of the soon-to-be retiring chairman of the Climate Change Commission. I can't comment on the CEO of that organisation, but I go down on bended knee and pray that the next chair deals to that particular person's inability to deliver what society needs. But what was the inheritance that we ended up with? Gross uncertainty, continual attacks on forestry, and an inordinately negative view as to what role sequestration, what role abatements, what role offsetting should play. To the point, the last regime thought the best way to deal with this was to hand out massive corporate subsidies to recipients in the industrial world. And those who received it, good on you. You played by the rules, you received the putea. My message to you, abide by the KPIs. But we're not going to address the challenges of climate change unless we bring certainty and stability, and a lot of the work that was underway under the last budget, Madam Speaker, is gone by the way, and there's a narrow focus this time to enhance certainty and boost stability in terms of the ETS. And this notion that some would have you believe we're going to go away and spend billions of dollars in 2030. That's what we hear from the Yabba-Dabba-Doo party over there, that New Zealanders are going to endorse us spending billions of dollars to the Congo. Never going to happen. New Zealanders expect us to invest so that society, so that the community can adapt to the challenges of changing weather and changing community challenges. Now, let me finish just on building and housing. Kāinga order, and I'm not too fussed by the name. Kāinga, from the word kā, to light a fire, where you built your home. Ora, sadly that name, lovely Māori word meaning well-being, the most of the experience for organisations with that name in their moniker has been an inverse related outcome. Kāinga order ended up, Madam Speaker, under the last regime, delivering houses at $6,500 per square metre. No wonder their finances are in a terrible state. In New Zealand, we should be delivering bog standard houses for at least $2,400 per square metre. And why do I say that? There is no point building the Taj Mahal when what society really requires is to stop spending the $1 million per day in motels, move those people into bog standard, ordinary whare, not overcompensated and overcapitalised, like many of us grew up with in New Zealand, an ordinary Keith Hay house. Or in the case of the people who grew up in the 60s, where you could get the same dwelling if you lived in Kaitaia down to Invercargill. Kāinga order, sadly, with a board that lost its way, probably dominated by a very, very overreaching minister of the time, has worsened housing statistics in New Zealand. The costs blew out to the point that, yes, there is at the moment a pause because we've got to get our hands around the throat of how much money are we continually throwing after bad outcomes. And the worst legacy is to look at the trajectory of inflated costs associated with delivering housing for the most needed, which is why our modest contribution of the granny flat is already inordinately popular around New Zealand. Not only as a response, because it eclipses the Building Act, much of which is unnecessary bureaucracy, it will also have a pathway through the Resource Management Act, and it's common sense, robust gestures of that nature which will deliver to garden variety kiwis a housing solution that is not overcapitalised and does not have the cost structure of the Taj Mahal.